Hello world, and we are back. It's quite sunny outside, so eyes will probably be squinting this video, but we are going to try to grind this 60 hours. It's going to be the first session that is on the books for the promotion. Hopefully we can get like 8 or 10 hours in today to get a big dent in the 60 number we're looking for, and let's go win ourselves a golf cart. I played a session at the One-Eyed Jacks Poker Club, and I did not have enough hands that were interesting enough to make a video about, but I did have one hand that was so significant it needed to be documented. I button straight out to $5 with pocket aces. The big blind raises to $20 before the low jack 3-bets to $75. Versus an opponent who certainly has a calling range and even a limping range, when they fire in the 3-bet, we can definitely weight them more heavily to a very strong made hand, and that's why for my 4-bet, I choose a sizing of $260. Not very standard, as a 4-bet should be like 2.2, 2.5x, and I'm closer to 4 on this one, but we're trying to get as much money in now as we possibly can.
I wish for $1 billion.
The pre-flop 3-better in the low jack decides to make the call. We end up going heads up to a flop, which is ace, queen, 10 rainbow. I have about $600 in my stack, and my opponent has about a 2K stack, so I am well covered, but I think my hand functions best as a one-street game. I think if my opponent happens to have pocket kings, ace king, king queen, and even pocket jacks, they're not going to fold to an all-in sizing, which is a slight overbet, but when we've narrowed our opponent's range to basically a pair plus straight draw at minimum, I think we can get super greedy and go for all of it, and when I go all in, my opponent absolutely snaps it off, so now I'm like, wow, did I just get 3-bet, 4-bet call off with king jack? Definitely hoping for more of a tank side call off than a snap call, but I asked my opponent if he wants to run it twice. He agrees to 2 times, and then he reveals he has pocket queens. What an absolute monumental cooler. Flopped set over set in a 4-bet pot is definitely going to be an all-in pot where one player is going to be getting stacked. On this one, I get 2 clean runouts and pocket aces. Top set will hold, and we end up making about $600 on this day after playing for probably 4 or 5 hours, which is kind of unfortunate that we got no other significant hands in across all that time, but it's a new day. We're at the Hard Rock Tampa trying to grind 60 hours to get into the free roll tournament, and to do that, we start at the 1-2 table waiting for the 1-3 ultra to open up, and when I'm in the low jack with queen jack off suit, I make it $10. The button is the only caller. We are heads up to a flop, which is queen jack 10 rainbow. Top 2 pair is excellent. It's certainly above average, and bet is quite a fine strategy on this board. But I check my entire range to my opponent, and this one's going to be no different. One quick note for all you grinding the 1-2 streets, ace king is not out of our opponent's range. I see plenty of people just limp call ace king, ace queen, so we do not have exclusive nuts on this board at the 1-2 streets specifically. And maybe not this time either, because my opponent leads for $15. 75% pot is quite big, especially when a lot of these players are betting like $7 and $8 raises. So we're not going to raise this one. We choose to just call, see what develops, and the turn is the 5 of diamonds. When I checked my opponent, he does not slow down. He bets $25. Another relatively large bet, but with top 2 pair, we're obviously not folding, and we're going to get to reevaluate a river. But when the river is the jack of spades, we do not want to give our opponent the chance to check through. If our opponent had like king queen specifically, they really hate this jack pair, and they're probably going to check a lot of the time. If they have ace king, they likely raise when I bet small, and if they have king 9, any of the straights, we're likely going to get a raise when we choose to lead for a relatively small sizing. I bet $40 thinking this sizing would make a queen unable to fold, especially when they bet even when they get led into on the river. And my opponent goes deep in the tank. He thinks for a little bit, and then he eventually just jams for 160, and I just beat him into the pot. I have a full house. I fast roll it. I assume he has ace king or king 9 at that point, but he actually has king 8 of diamonds, so went bluff, raise river bluff. So we get a welcomed gift at this 1-2 table before we're finally called to the 1-3 ultra. If you like my video, please take a moment and subscribe, where we win 3 less notable pots, and then unfortunately run into a hiccup where we bet with the ace of clubs on a 3-club board. Nut blocker will be a bluff for me on the river, and my opponent happened to have a straight. He's never folding. Unlucky my opponent happened to be that strong on that particular hand. Before we arrive at the next hand of note, I have ace 7 of hearts on the button. When it folds all the way to me, I'm going to raise it up to $15. On this one, the small blind size of call, we are heads up to a flop, which is 9-8-8 rainbow with 1 heart. When my opponent checks to me, I'm just going to basically full pot this. $25 is the bet, especially because my opponent can have tons of misses if they have like Queen Jack, Ace Wheel card, King X, tons of misses that I think are just going to fold to one bet, and I have plenty of backdoors to fall back on if needed. And for $25, my opponent makes the call, and we hit probably the best card we could possibly see in the 6 of hearts. Open-ended plus nut flush draw, we are going to be betting huge. Overpot this one, $95. We don't have a whole lot of showdown value, and for a large bet, my opponent might fold a 9 some of the time. Maybe my opponent has a small pocket pair that's definitely peeling once on the flop, but can't hold on to the second barrel. But my opponent does hold on. He puts in the $95, and we are heads up to river card. Can I hit one of these, a plethora of outs? We do. We pair our 7 with the 7 of spades. Not what I'm looking for at all, and even worse, my opponent leads for $160.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
What?
No, no, no. Don't do that!
Quite a terrible run out. There's a 4-liner out there, and my opponent can easily just have like 9, 10, 10 jack where it's open-ended and just get there, and we can't really hold on any longer. So this one's going to be a loss, but that's okay. We have ace king of clubs in the +1 spot. When under the gun makes it $15, we're going to just do a standard 3x with an ace king suited. I make it $45. It folds all the way to the under the gun player, who should have the tightest range in general, and maybe they have just the tightest hand in general because they basically pure min click it. It's $80 total.
Is it even real?
Yeah, it's real.
Basically the smallest raise that's even legal, and now I'm kind of in shambles. If this was ace king offsuit, I would just snap fold it. They almost purely have aces or kings in this spot, but when we have the suited variety, we can hope they have exactly pocket kings and my aces live, or we can get a multiple club board, 2 Broadway board that give us a gut shot and some playability. So for such a minimum raise, we're going to just peel this one and hope to get some level of connection, which we absolutely get none of on 9-6-3 rainbow no club.
Thought we were having a nice
We are.
day.
We are.
And our opponent continues for $125. This hand is certainly over for me, and we are losing some significant pots here in the 3 and 4 bet territory. But another fun one comes up where I have the ace of hearts and jack of spades in the big blind. Under the gun makes it $15. Cutoff calls. We're going to be 3-betting this one, even though it's ace jack offsuit. We are ahead of these opponents' ranges. They're often pretty wide, so I make it $75. On this one, only the under the gun player decides to call, so we are heads up to a flop, which is king 3-4 with 2 spades. We've missed, but in general, we're just going to check our range out of position. I check to my opponent, and he continues for $65. Often when I face these bets, when I check out of position, I often don't even think my opponent knows that I'm just checking range. And opponents stab so often when they're checked to. They just think like, oh, he would bet if he had a king, but if I had ace king, I would check just the same way. Kind of in the moment thinking that this is the perfect check raise bluff candidate. Backdoor spades, backdoor straight draw, and an overcard seems relevant, and I could easily have ace king or pocket kings and go for the check raise. But I don't really find it in the moment. I choose to just call here, see what develops. I think opponents often, when they do stab, they just give up, just bet one bet, and then they check it down. And ace high could even be good against his range of like 2 Broadway cards, 2 middling cards, a lot of ace highs that are worse than ace jack. But when the turn is the 8 of spades, I think it's time to just lead and represent a good hand. If I had a flush draw, I would not give my opponent the chance to check through. If I had ace jack of spades here and just turn the nuts, I'd be betting small here and trying to make sure my opponent could not fold a king. So I decided to lead out for $125. My opponent goes into the tank for a few seconds. He's really thinking it over, and then he eventually just settles on fold. So the turn lead semi-bluff works on this one. Quite happy to see that. Which leads us to a very fun Texas Hold'em double board bomb pot where we peel pocket aces. If it was a single board bomb pot, I would be very concerned. They're unlikely to be the best against 9 hands. But when we have 2 boards to work with, we're likely going to be ahead on at least one of them. And we certainly are. When the top board comes ace, jack, 8 with 2 diamonds. Bottom board, jack, 7, 6 with 2 spades. We have top set the actual nuts. And because that we're really early to act, I bet just $25. I want to keep as many opponents in as possible. I have the actual nuts. And if my opponent has just a single jack, we're ahead on both boards, so fine to let multiple people in there. And on this one, we end up getting 4 callers. This pot is growing nicely. Top board pairs the jack. We have the actual nuts there, and it will not be beaten. Bottom board is the king of diamonds. So because there is a jack on bottom, no one can have quads. No one's going to beat my hand. I'm going to win it almost certainly. But we want to continue to bet small here. Random single jacks are unlikely to fold still, and we're ahead on both boards. I bet $50, hoping that everyone stays in for this price as well. On this one, we get one call and a second call. So we're still going three ways to a river card. On top is a 6, aces full is the nuts, on bottom is an 8. So now I think the only plan here is to go absolutely massive. I think if we get like 6, 7 to fold the bottom board, thinking that they could get scooped here some of the time, is a good result. And if my opponent has like jack 10, they're probably just going to call and we're going to win and scoop a huge pot. So I bet basically pot size bet $310 is the wager. Really hoping one of our opponents can talk themselves into a call. Don't see a jack folding to even this size.
I'm sorry, we don't really do that.
No?
And unfortunately for me, after a decent long tank, both players decide to fold. Either way, we did win a decent bomb pot where we got a lot of bets in from a lot of different players on 2 different spots. For a final hand of note, I looked at a pocket kings versus 3 limpers. I choose to go very small with this one. The table had changed a little bit. It'd been quite tight and I didn't really want to just get a walk. I wanted to get some action, so that's why I chose a smaller sizing of $40. And maybe this was a mistake because this brings along all the limpers. We are going 4 ways to a flop, which is 9, 6, 7 with 2 spades. We have the king of spades, so that's pretty nice to fall back on if needed. And then the big blind just goes all in for approximately $150. Folds to me. I am certainly not folding pocket kings, especially with backdoor spades. So I make the call. We agreed to run it 2 times, and my opponent shows ace 5 of spades. So we have a decent amount of outs that we need to fade. We get a clean first board. Second turn card is an 8. Takes me a second to realize my opponent just made a straight. But I do have some actual outs to just chop with him on that board. If it was a 10 or a 5, which would be great, we'd profit a decent amount. But it's not to come on this one. We end up chopping this hand, and with a few unfortunate runouts, we actually lose $300 on the day.
Kiss me.
Across 8 hours, equating to $37 an hour or 12 big blinds an hour. Yeah, I would say the session-defining hand was definitely the ace-7 of hearts. If we end up making a straight or a flush on that one, I think we gain a lot of momentum. We definitely have a profitable stack at that point. We could start bullying people, get a good image, all that jazz. But on this one, we get a few runouts that were less than ideal. If my double board bomb pot with aces gets paid on the river, we're definitely profitable. If my ace king of clubs doesn't run into a min 4 bet, which is likely just aces, I mean kings sometimes, but likely only aces, then that could have also been a good opportunity to gain some money back. And maybe I'll run it once from now on, because when we have kings and we run into the ace 5 suited, we chop it on the second run out. The opponents have been hitting the second board a lot on me lately, so might have to finally switch it up and just be a one-time only guy. I guess we'll see how that goes going forward. But thank you for watching all the way to this point. I appreciate the view. I appreciate if you comment. Let me know what you thought about it. And I will see you on the next one.